Hello, family. Welcome back to Life Reconsidered. As always, this is your girl, Dr. T. We have a question in the house, and the question is, why is it important to marry a believer, and how compatible should we be? I'm going to go straight into trying to answer this question, and I hope that it will be of benefit to those who are already married and those who are planning on getting married or in the process of choosing a lifetime partner. Marrying a believer has its own advantages, like sharing your faith in common, like having similar commitment, like being surrounded by godly people who will give you godly counsel, and growing and praying together. You know, the foundation of similar faith is very important. However, sometimes when somebody say they're a believer or Christian, you want to take the time out to find out if there are any doctrinal differences. Some Christians believe in the Lord's Supper and other Christians don't. So the doctrinal differences is very important. If that person happens to be in the same fellowship with you, then that question of doctrinal differences is already resolved. In addition to marrying a Christian or a believer, I am going to give you some guidelines to help you look beyond what they say they are to try to find out if they truly are who they say they are. Okay? So the first thing that you want to do is to also look for some traits. And I call this negotiables and non-negotiable traits. Negotiable traits are the things that you can overlook. It is not like a make or break trait in a relationship. But the non-negotiable traits are very important. And before I go deep into the non-negotiable traits, I want to give you an example of a negotiable trait. One negotiable trait can be like the height of the person. You can consider or not consider the height of the person, but the height of the person is not necessarily a make or break, because when you eventually live together, it is the character of the person that you are going to be relating to, and you're going to be, interacting with, not necessarily the physical trait like the height. So think about that. Okay, so examples of non-negotiable traits, as we already made us to understand the background of the person, like the Christian background of the person has to be a believer. That is something that you can consider a non-negotiable trait. And like I said, you have to go beyond the fact that the person is professing as a believer or a Christian. The next thing that you want to look for is, are they being authentic in their faith? Some Christians profess that they are Christians, but in actually living a lifestyle, that lifestyle contradicts their profession, of being a child of God. Quote unquote, beware and be mindful of wolves in sheep clothing. If he or she tells you they are Christians, or even if they tell you they are men of God or pastor in the making, you still want to, look at their lifestyle if their lifestyle consists of pleasure and they would, overlook and sacrifice chastity and holiness to please themselves, then they can take advantage of you to please themselves, and they can indoctrinate you even in their own process of also, getting you to not cherish the fact that you have to take some traits seriously and some things seriously in the relationship before you get married. So go beyond the fact that they tell you they're a child of God, you're a Christian. Examine their lifestyle. And if their lifestyle is in contradictory to, what God tells us to do, then please advise yourself. In addition to that, you want to look out for truthfulness. Are they consistent in what they say and do? Do they tell you one thing and do another? Are they open to you giving feedback? Those are things that you want to look for. You also want to look for financial integrity. How do they handle their money? It's something that you need to look at before you get married as well. How do they handle resources that comes to them? You also want to look at how this person relates to their family dynamics, because eventually they would have to relate to your family, and you want to study them and see how they relate and respond to their own family dynamics. Okay, let's keep moving. The other traits that is very important to look at, and I feel like this is not typically discussed as things we need to look out for before we get married, is your sickle trait or your sickle trait status. It's very important that you know your sickle trait and the sickle trait status of your partner. Unfortunately, many hearts have been broken. Some people get together, and by the time they decide they want to make it official, they realize that they are not compatible in terms of, this biological compatibility. They realize that they both have sickle traits. And it's a sad story to get to that point. So it's crucial for you and your partner to know your status about your sickle traits. Now, there are two outcomes. When people get to this point and they find out that they both have sickle traits, some people decide to part ways, which can be painful. Because after several years of investing emotionally and physically and, being together, you decide to part ways, and that can be very painful. So it's good to know your sickle traits and that of your partner before you get so deep and before you get so involved in it. Like I said, some decide to part ways, regardless of how painful that may be. Others still decide to continue in faith. I want to say this. Deciding to continue in faith, you have to understand the repercussion of that decision. The question is your love and that of your partner so strong to overcome the challenges of caring for a child or children who would have sickle cell diseases and crisis quite often, I may add? Is your love and that of your partner so strong to deal with the financial stresses, the physical stresses that comes along with caring for a child or children who have sickle cell diseases? These are questions that you need to ask. If in the event that you find yourself in such a situation. But the Bible tells us, lack of knowledge, my people perish. So it's better for you to have the knowledge far ahead of time so you don't find yourself in that situation. All right. Now, let's try to answer the second question. The second question is, how compatible should we be? Now, the term compatibility originated from the legal system. When the legal system talks about compatibility, it is saying that there is consistency in duties between 2 or 3 offices of similar nature. So when we adapt compatibility in trying to explain marriage and relationship, we are saying that the couple in question have similar views. They are able to understand each other. They have similar perspective in life. They are able to get along. You know what I mean? Like just sit down, talk, laugh. They are able to have that emotional, healthy boundaries in the relationship, and they are supportive of one another. Now, I want to caution here that if you are trying to find out whether we have 100% compatibility before you go on, I will tell you that that can be a mirage, in the sense that compatibility can intentionally be created. You and your partner can decide to put measures in place and intentionally create compatibility. Or you and your partner may have some compatibility from the beginning, but as life, comes in, stresses comes in, children comes in, job stresses, financial stresses, that compatibility may change. So compatibility is not written and fixed. It can change. You can create it. You can lose it, depending on how you and your partner handle the stresses that comes in your life. So whether you are married and right now you feel like we used to get along so well, but now we don't, I want you to understand that you and your partner can intentionally create that compatibility. You and your partner can intentionally put measures in place to get along and still have the same emotional and physical feeling that you had before. But if you are trying to find a partner and you want to base it on how compatible you are, I can tell you it's not a fixed trait, meaning that you can lose it. So it doesn't have to be 100% compatibility, but at the same time, you also want to look out for areas that you have similar views, perspective, and how it's easy for you to get along. It doesn't have to be 100% like I said, but you can look out for some traits there. If it's not to the point where you want it, know that you can intentionally create that. And don't let that be the sole decider of whether you get married to someone or not. All right. This is how far we have come answering a specific question today. And if you have any follow-up question, or if you have any question, don't hesitate. You can contact me at mylifereconsidered.gmail.com. mylifereconsidered.gmail.com. Thank you for hanging out with me once again. And just want to say, I appreciate you and appreciate your time following and listening. Please don't forget to subscribe. See you another time. Again, here at Life Reconsidered. Thank you. Bye.